Hi, welcome to Programming with Mash. In this session, we want to create an application together from the beginning so that we can finally upload it to the store. We will create a to-do list and use almost everything we have learned in this series. In the previous session, we got acquainted with the testing in React Native using Jest. Now I will delete the files we created for testing. We no longer need the login page, so I renamed it Splash to use as the entry page. I also renamed the function and delete the ones we don't need. I will change the name of the notification channel so that we can use it later. Well, now I will create an image on this page to display a logo inside it. Go to the Assets folder, delete the previous images, and copy the image. Now we enter the image address here. And we define its style, which exists from previous sessions. Here we enter the title of the application. Now in the app.js file, wherever we use login, we replace it with a splash. And run the app. Well, now I will change the style of this page a little to make it look better. I want to use a custom font for the title of the application. So I go to the global style file we created earlier and define one of the appropriate title fonts there. Now on the splash page, I import global style. And I use it along with the text style. Now, in order to navigate from this page to the main page of the app, I use a timeout to navigate to the home page, for example, after 2 seconds. Well, as you can see, we get the home screen in 2 seconds. We don't need this page anymore, so I will delete it. Instead, I create pages that I want to be displayed in the homepage tabs. First, I create the to-do page for ongoing tasks. And then the done page for completed tasks. Now I import these two pages into app.js to use them in Tab Navigator. As we learned before, we create a bottom tab navigator. But this time we want to use this tab navigator nested with a stack navigator. I create the home tabs function to build the tab navigator structure. Consider the to-do and done page as its tabs. I use font awesome to display tab icons. So now we consider the stack navigator that we created earlier as the main navigator. And place the tab navigator we created as one of its screens. I named this screen My Tasks and use this name in the splash page to enter this page after 2 seconds. Well, as you can see, our home screen has 2 tabs with to-do and done screens. Now we want to create a button at the bottom of the to-do page that we can use to create a new task. First, I define the style of the whole page. And then I use touchable opacity to create the button. Now using Font Awesome, I create an icon in the center. Well, we created the button. Now we create a page to display and edit the details of the task. I add this page to the Stack Navigator, so that we can navigate to it from the main page. Now for the button we created, we define onPress and use it to navigate the user to the task details page. I will create a text input on this page. I consider this text input as title. And similarly, I consider text input as a description. I also multiline it so that the user can enter more details. Now I create a button to save the task details. To control the values of these inputs on this page, I create a state for each. And I use them in text input. Now, in order to be able to use the state tasks throughout the app, we go to the Redux folder and make changes to it. First, in the Actions file, I delete the items we don't need, and then I create an action for the tasks. I also create an action for the task ID that opens in the task details page. Now in the reducers file, I set the states according to the actions we created. In the store file, I modify the reducer name. Well, now we are preparing the to-do file to use Redux states. I create a function called getTasks so that we can display the saved tasks on this page. We use async storage to store data in local storage. I name its key tasks. And after reading the value, I parse it using JSON. Now, if this value existed and it was an object type, we can store it in the state. Finally, if an error occurs, we display it on the console. Now we need to be able to create a new task using the button we created. In order to always have the latest task ID, by pressing this button, we use the tasks state and add 1 to its length. Now using useEffect, we run this function when the page opens to display the list of tasks. Well, this list is currently empty, so use this button to go to the task details page to create a new task. For this button, we need to define a function that records the input values as a new task. In order not to record the task without the value, we consider at least one of these inputs mandatory. For example, I make title mandatory. That is, if something is not entered in it, we give a warning message to the user. Otherwise, we first use a try catch block, and then we use the tasks and task ID states. Now we create the task object using the ID and two input values. And we add this object to the end of the previous tasks. Now using async storage, we save the list of new tasks on the tasks key using JSON. If the save is successful, we will also update it in the state. And display a successful message to the user. Finally, we return to the previous page using navigation. We also display the possible storage error in async storage in this way. So now I create a new task and save it in the task list. We have not yet used the component to display tasks on this page. So I use a flat list to display the data in the tasks. As each item, I consider a touchable opacity, in which I display the title and description. Well, now I give them a style to look better. Now, like the splash page, I consider a custom font for the texts of the items. For example, here I use this font, which is like handwriting. Well, now I apply this font to both texts. I also use this prop to specify that each text be displayed in a maximum of one line so that the order of the items is not disturbed. And because of this warning, I add key extractor to fill at list. Now I specified that by touching each item, we go to the task details page. And I save the task ID in that item in the state. Now, after entering the task page, using the function that I create, we will find the desired task from the list of tasks with the help of its ID. And if a task is found, we save the data in the object in the states of this page. Now I use the getTask function in useEffect to run when the page opens. And as you can see, by touching this task, its values are displayed in the task details page. But by clicking the new task button, because the task with a new ID cannot be found, the values are empty. Now, in order to update the task object values by pressing this button, I will make changes to the setTask function. If there is a task in the list, I will update it with a new object, and if it doesn't exist, I will add it to the bottom of the list. As you can see, task was updated correctly. Now I will add another task for testing. So there we go, we created a to-do list that has the ability to create and update tasks. So in the next video, we will work on completing the tasks and add more features to it. Now if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next session.